Hello and welcome to Templar Knights Music's podcast of the creation of the Knights Templar. I am your host, Sir Rick Trujillo. To start things off, I'd like to give you a little background on the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, they were a large organization of Christians with a mission. And their mission was to protect all of the European travelers that were visiting the sites in the Holy Land. Now, at the same time they were doing this, they had to continue carrying out their brave military operations. Now, they were wealthy, powerful, and mysterious order that has fascinated historians and the public for centuries. Now, tales of the Templars and their financial acumen, their military prowess, and their work on behalf of Christianity, well, it still circulates throughout the modern culture today. Now, who were the Knights Templar? Well, after the Christian armies in 1099 captured Jerusalem from Muslim control during the Crusades, groups of pilgrims from across Western Europe started to visit the Holy Land. They wanted to see the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and, Golgotha. And many of them, on their journey to Jerusalem, were robbed. They were beaten and even killed. Now, around 1118, there was a French knight by the name of Hugues de Payan who decided to create a military order with 8 of his relatives and acquaintances. And he called it the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ in the Temple of Solomon, or later known simply as the Knights Templar. Now, with the support of King Baldwin II, the ruler of Jerusalem, they were allowed to set their headquarters up in that city's sacred Temple Mount, from which they took their name. And they also pledged to protect all of the Christian visitors to Jerusalem. Now, initially, the Knights Templar faced criticism from some religious leaders. But in 1129, the group received the formal endorsement of the Catholic Church and, of course, support from Bernard of Clairvaux. Now, Bernard of Clairvaux was a prominent French abbot who authored a book entitled In Praise of the New Knighthood. Now, this book supported the Templars and bolstered their growth immensely. So, let's flash forward ahead 10 years. It's now 1139. Pope Innocent II issued a papal bull that allowed the Knights Templar special rights. And among them, the Templars were exempt from paying taxes. They were permitted to build their own oratories. And they were held, actually, to no one's authority. They didn't have to answer to kings or queens or anybody. The only person that they had to answer to was, of course, the Pope. Now, the Templars set up a very prosperous network of banks and gained enormous financial influence. Their banking system allowed religious pilgrims to deposit their money in their home countries, and then, of course, they can withdraw their money in the Holy Land once they arrived. This was a much safer way for the pilgrims to travel, because if you remember, a lot of them were getting robbed and killed. So, the order became known also for its code of conduct and signature style of dress, which featured a white habit emblazoned with a simple red cross. All of the Templar members swore an oath of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Now, they weren't allowed to drink or gamble or swear. And prayer was essential to a Templar in their daily life. the Templars expressed a very high adoration for the Virgin Mary. Of course, Mother Mary is mother of us all. Now, as the Templars grew in size and status, they established new chapters throughout Western Europe. And at the height of their influence, the Templars boasted a sizable fleet of ships. They owned the Mediterranean island of Cyprus and served as a primary bank and lending institutions for European monarchs and nobles. So basically, if a king wanted to go to war and he needed a loan, they would go to the Templars and get their loan. Now, through its original purpose, though its original purpose was to protect pilgrims from danger, the Knights Templar progressively expanded its duties. They became defenders of the Crusader states in the Holy Land, and they were actually known as brave and highly skilled warriors. The group developed a reputation as fierce fighters during the Crusades. They were driven by religious fervor and forbidden from retreating unless significantly outnumbered. Basically, they could not leave or retreat off the battlefield unless they were outnumbered 3-1. First in, last out. The Templars built many castles and fought, and often won, battles against the Muslim armies. Their fearless style of fighting was so great that it became a model for other military orders. And I think that's going to be about it for tonight. I thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Sir Rick Trujillo, and we'll see you at our next podcast. God bless. Bye-bye.